Slow down a bit, I think. We just talked about AI and technology. And I'm here to talk about history and heritage. Um, what the fuss is all about, I used to wonder. Why history? And why heritage? I think that's a question a lot of my students have always asked. I used to ponder upon this myself. History we learned, well, you can learn from history maybe some lessons. You can find out what happened in the past, and maybe you can learn something or two, or one or two things from it for the future. But then people argue that what's the point? It's an outdated thing. People, how they acted in the olden days. What's the relevance of, let's say, 10,000 years or 5,000 years? And heritage, of course, is outdated fashion when it comes to outfit, dresses, architecture, living. It's all outdated. It's old-fashioned. And that's what I also, well, I thought so. But I discovered that heritage and history also has another function. So there's obviously intellectual pursuit, which is that you try and find out, and it's knowledge, and then you try and establish from archaeological things and others that what really happened. But the purpose, I think, for everyone that it serves, in addition to the traditional aspects of what we can learn for the future, that history and heritage, they give us coordinates, the Google location, where we are in time. And then it also contributes to developing something very central to human beings, I thought. And that was identity, of who we are. There's absolutely no other way of finding out who we really are, where we come from, why are we here, and where we're going. All that was related to history and heritage. And when we talk about this, it contributes to the identity, as I said before. And why is identity important? That's the next question I thought was important. And for any human being, identity is central. And I think we can all agree that identity is central, but then that identity is incomplete if there is no past as part of that identity. So you build up that identity, and then identity is a set of blocks. Where, for example, you are from LACAS, that's part of your identity. You are, your parents, where you come from, your house, everything. And the past clearly has a very important role to play in all those building blocks that we call identity. What's the advantage of having a clear identity, and what are the disadvantages when this identity is confused? In this part of the world, I think, in this region, and especially for a lot of Pakistanis, perhaps it's difficult with time to really define what it means to be Pakistani. And I think that's one of the reasons when there's confused identity, then there is related self-confidence that really goes down. As the identity is confused, the more it is confused, the more you lack confidence. And with that confidence, there's also low self-esteem. Now, with low self-esteem, the problem is that there is no internal anchor. And what I mean by internal anchor is things that anchor us firmly to an ethical mode of behavior, to a code of conduct, if you will. And all that is part of, for example, the faith, worldview, where we belong, the parents, the family, all that actually come together. And they give us internal anchors. External anchors are, of course, the police, the FIA,
and society in general, that keep us anchored, and obviously certain behavior that ensures that we do not really move out of line. But internal anchors are most important. And without a clear identity and related self-esteem, there's no internal anchoring, and that means any behavior then is acceptable. Anything that feeds the animal instincts, immediate gratification, instant gratification, then becomes the order of the day. And I think that's why it's really important that we try and keep in perspective history, heritage, because heritage is what? Heritage is science which has proven the test of time. And so heritage is very scientific. And lack of it, I think we suffer every day because we are not in touch with our heritage or the traditional practices. Look at architecture. Our architecture now is hardly relevant. So it's not relevant to the climate. It's not relevant to our worldview. It's not relevant to the climate or our, the way of living. And so if you do not switch on, if you switch on the air conditioning 24/7, that you have to, in the heat of summers, obviously the bill comes and then it really causes heart attack. And if you do not switch it on, then it becomes a microwave. And that's just one example. When we import architecture, we import everything because everything which is not Pakistani is fascinating. So it's, for example, remember the days of Ertugrul, the drama. So a lot of brides, I think, they then demanded from the grooms that they wear that Ertugrul cap, and then otherwise the marriage is not possible. So you will become an Arab, you become a Turk, you try and become a Brit or an American. But I think it's not about good or bad. It's just about unless we're being ourselves, there is no way we can be confident. And unless you're confident and unless we have self-esteem, I think it's very difficult to function as confident human beings who can then be creative and who can be confident. Thank you very much.